Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Non-Scripted Ramblings. I'm a Kendall Richardson who, if you haven't noticed, is sounding a little under the weather, but that's okay. I'm well enough to keep going with the videos and and this one, and hopefully you'll notice the change in my voice as we progress along the journey. So it's also now the journey of my sickness and the journey of our countdown to Avengers Infinity War, which is only a few days away now, so that's pretty exciting. So I'm gonna push through. We're gonna talk about Doctor Strange today, which is very exciting. Another movie, yes, correct, you are right, it's another movie. It's the second film in Phase 3 following Captain America Civil War, so let's get to it. I watched the trailer before I filmed. Good trailer, sets it up really well, shows a lot of what happens in the movie, doesn't really show you what the plot of the film is exactly, just, because it's kind of setting it up as an origin story. Introducing Doctor Stephen Strange, played by Benedict Cumberbatch, who does a fantastic job, as he always does, because he's amazing. So we get a really good look at the world that they're building and that they're showing us in this movie. It's really, really awesome. Doctor Strange probably has to be my favourite film visually because it is so beautiful to look at. It's so wonderful. It really is like comic book cells like put on screen. It's just so wonderful and so colourful and so just, I'm surprised in myself I didn't get sick while watching it because I suffer from motion sickness pretty bad, and so I was surprised that a lot of the fast moving like images and stuff didn't make me ill. Thank goodness, because I love it. It's really, really cool. But yeah, it's a good trailer. It's fine. No mention of Dormammu. We get a shot of Caecilius in there, Mads Mikkelsen. That's pretty much, just alluding to, world-ending danger, as these movies tend to do. So good stuff. Let's head into the movie. God, where do I start? Okay, so Doctor Strange is very much, and I think they're kind of introducing him as sort of this Iron Man, Tony Stark kind of figure, because he goes on a very similar journey throughout this movie, because I feel like Tony Stark is more likable than Stephen Strange. Stephen Strange is a bit of a knob. He's very arrogant and egotistical and thinks the world of himself because he's this top surgeon. He has every right to be. He's the top of his game. No one can come close to him, but he has no qualms whatsoever about rubbing it in people's faces. So they're trying to, they're setting him up at the start of the movie to take him down because, the whole point of Doctor Strange and how he becomes Doctor Strange, master of the mythic arts, is because he's driving recklessly and, is involved in an accident, and then he gets his precious hands get kind of smashed in a million pieces on the inside, and they have to repair him, and I think it's a kind of a heartbreaking scene when he wakes up in the hospital and he sees his hands for the first time and they're all pinned and bloodied and bruised and then, and he's sort of on off again partner, Dr. Christine Palmer, played by Rachel McAdams. She's wonderful in this as well. She explains they did the best they could with what they had. You got the best treatment possible, and then he's like, well, I could have done better. Even in his kind of, state, he's still kind of a bit egotistical, but at the same time it's kind of tragic because it's like, well, if it had been him being able to fix himself, if he could have done that, he probably would have been able to do it just because he's, the best of the best. But it is very humbling to see him go through that process of losing the ability to, use his hands, which is something we all take for granted, and especially someone like him who relies on his hands for his job. He can't perform his job, and he's just, the humbling of him takes a little while because he's very arrogant for a while, and I love the scene where, he's doing rehab, and he's talking to his I guess what's the physiotherapist would be the word, and he's like, you know, have you ever known anyone to make a full recovery from this kind of injury? And he goes, yeah, one person. He was paralyzed, and he can walk now. And so Strange didn't believe him because, like, that's impossible. But he was acting so... He called him bachelor's degree, which I thought was such a burn, because I have a bachelor's degree, so up yours, Stephen. And then the guy was just, like, not taking his shit. He's like, you know, if it proves your arrogant ass wrong, then I'm happy to do it, you know. So he gets him the file on Pangborn, who's a man that was able to heal himself somehow. We don't know, but we find out because Strange ends up going, going to see Pangborn and being like, I need your help. I need to know how you did this. How did you fix yourself? And so he tells him about Karmatage. And then Stephen just kind of is like, one track mind, I need to get this fixed. And then he ends up kind of rejecting Christine's help, because she's like, you know, it's clear she cares very much about him. And it's very, you know, it's very sad because he doesn't appreciate it at all. He's rude to her and he's mean, and then, you know, when she leaves, and after he, like, has a bit of a tantrum at her, and it's just, it's hard, it's very hard to watch, because it's always those scenes in those kinds of movies. It's just, I can never understand why. I mean, I guess you can't understand because you're not in that position, you don't know what that person's going through, but I can never understand why anyone in that position would push loved ones away because they're so stubborn and pig-headed and arrogant and all that. I just don't get it. So it's hard to watch, but, you know, that's the situation. So he basically spends the last of his money going to Karmatage, one-way ticket. He gets to Kathmandu in Nepal, and then, you know, he's wandering around the streets, and then he gets mugged, and that's unfortunate, but he's in such a state. So you compare him from the start of the movie to where he is now, he's just completely taken down to, like, this, you know, just low peg. Like, his hair's all disheveled, his beard's kind of growing out of control. You know, he's wearing these shaggy clothes that are dirty, probably the only clothes that he owns. And then to top it off, he gets mugged, and, you know, they want to take his watch, which is the last thing he has. And we find out later the reason he wanted to hang on to it was because it was a gift from Christine, which I think was really sweet. You know, somewhere deep down he still cares about her, so that's really lovely. But yeah, thankfully Mordo, played by the wonderful Chiwetel Ejiofor, steps in, disposes of the muggers, and then you know, is like, you're looking for Karmatage, you know, come with me, you know. And then we get introduced to the Ancient One, Tilda Swinton's wonderful character. So here's the thing, the Ancient One in the comics is a very old and wise Asian man. But in the movie, they decided to go this route. And this, of course, was very controversial at the time of the film's release, and even leading up to it. People were, you know, talking about whitewashing, and we even did an episode about it on the then podcast called Friday Nights at Fred's. Go check us out on iTunes. Now podcast called Fred. Where we talked about whitewashing in the industry, and whether we were for or against it, or like what are the nitty-gritty details of why they would make a choice to cast a Celtic actress in this role instead of going for an Asian man. Now, and then the one thing that annoys me about the whitewashing scandal is the fact that this movie is, I mean, I don't know too much about, obviously, about that region of the world and everything involved with it. But I mean, obviously, in this movie, we get, you know, the wonderful character that is Wong, played by Benedict Wong. And he's excellent. I can't wait to see him in Infinity War. I'm so glad he's going to be in that movie. It's really cool. He's kind of becoming Strange's right-hand buddy. you know, the roadie to his Tony Stark, if you will. And he's an excellent actor, and he's Asian, and he's given, you know, he's not a stereotype in this movie, because the thing about this film is that what the people in Kamar-Taj that are studying the mystic arts, they're all from all different walks of life. You know, you've got women and men of all different colours and creeds coming together to find inner peace, enlightenment, and train to become sorcerers. And I think that's the point of this movie, is to show that, and they've done that by having Wong being a supporting character, and he's not a caricature, he's not a stereotype, he's his own man, and he's pretty badass, and he doesn't take no crap. And then but I mean, you know, the choice to have the Ancient One being a Celtic woman, I understand why people would be annoyed, but at the same time, it's not like the entire cast is white male. There are women, there are strong women. Tilda Swinton does a fantastic job. She is so awesome in this role. I love her in this movie. And then Chiwetel Ejiofor, obviously, you know, of African descent or Indian descent. I apologise if I'm not 100% sure on his heritage, but obviously he's not white, is the point. So I feel like they came down a bit too hard on Marvel for this. Same thing with the Iron Fist thing. I think that probably would have served them better for Iron Fist if he'd been an Asian actor, particularly because not many people seem to care for Finn Jones in the role, and I'm sadly to say I'm one of them. I think that's probably the one example of Marvel's miscasting. But Tilda Swinton was not miscast, and they explain it in the movie that, you know, she's one of many that have come before her. She's, you know, there have been many ancient ones, like all the way going back to Agamotto, who was the, you know, I guess the founder of Kamar-Taj, and you know, he was the one that kind of started the whole thing. So yeah, so that's my take on it. Like I said, I understand people's frustration, but at the same time, also, it's just a movie, guys. There are more important things to get upset about. And it's not like, and they're not, you know, and like I said, they're not being discriminatory at all. They're not discriminating against Asian actors at all in this film. So yeah, take it or leave it, I guess. So yeah, so Strange is being, you know, taken down another peg by being shown that he was, you know, wrong, because he's like, what do you know about, how can you make a man walk? You know, I've come here, I've spent all my money, and I've come here, and you want to teach me meditation and, you know, blah, 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 like, whatever, like, nothing, you know, spiritual enlightenment bullcrap that he doesn't believe in because he's such a skeptic, because he's based in science. And then, you know, she blows his mind and, you know, takes his astral form out of his body and puts it back in, and then sends him on this journey through the multiverse, and it's so visually stimulating and just wonderful to watch. The colours are beautiful, the shapes, the forms, like a lot of it, I mentioned in my Ant-Man video, obviously, there's a few segments of it that look like, you know, from when he went subatomic in Ant-Man, and so there's a connection there, because obviously in Ant-Man, they're like, it's, you know, different realities once you become that small, and this is a part of that. That's a part of the multiverse, and obviously we see that in Doctor Strange, which is, yeah, super cool. But yeah, it looks wonderful, and then straight away he's just like, teach me everything I need to know. I need to master this. You know, he's just completely blown away. Once he has the proof, the scientist's mind's like, okay, this is real, let's do this. And so then he just goes on his journey to becoming Doctor Strange. And it's wonderful to watch. I mean, it's a bit cliched because it's like he struggles for a while with how to, you know, perform spells and using the sling ring. But eventually he gets there, and, you know, after he nearly freezes to death on the top of Mount Everest. Yeah, which is quite funny. But yeah, then he comes back and he keeps learning, he keeps getting, you know, getting better and better. He reads all the books, and you know, he's just becomes very proficient, obviously, because he says he's got a photographic memory, so he can, you know, multitask and learn so much and take so much in because he won't forget any of it. So it makes him very suited for this kind of role. I love the scene with Wong in the library when the little bits of humour in this film are a bit forced, I'll admit, but I like the payoff we get when, because like basically when we meet Wong for the first time, Strange makes a joke about like, you know, like Cher or Beyonce or Bono or whatever, you know, celebrities with one name, and then and then later on we get a scene of Wong sitting there listening listening to Single Ladies by the wonderful Beyonce, while Strange is like, you know, he's distracted, he opens up portals, takes books and stuff while Wong isn't looking, and it's really funny. I like that setup and payoff, it's very good. Okay, let's go to the notes. Have I forgotten anything so far? Oh yeah, okay. Speaking of the humour, this is a good time to bring this up. I love the whole Wi-Fi password joke. I get why they put it in the trailer, because it's probably one of the you know, coolest bits in the film, like in terms of the humour. Strange is like, what is this, my mantra? It's like the word is Shambhala on a piece of paper, and then Mordo's like, it's the Wi-Fi password, we're not savages. And so I looked up what Shambhala meant, because I wasn't sure, and it actually refers to a mythical kingdom hidden beyond the hills of the Himalayas, which is pretty much what Karmatage is. So I thought that was pretty neat. So, okay, yeah, there's another reference to magic and science being one and the same. Oh, my leg's going dead, so I'm just going to shuffle around. Sorry, shuffling. Yeah, there's a reference right when the Ancient One is teaching Doctor Strange about how to cast spells. She makes a magic versus science reference, and she says that, you know, think of spells as like a computer program, or a program, and I just thought that was really cool. Another one of the many references of magic and science being one and the same thing. I thought that was so cool. Okay, so let's talk about some of the things that connect Doctor Strange with the rest of the MCU. So obviously the big one is we get the Time Stone, which is the Eye of Agamotto. Well, it's inside of it anyway. It's part of it. And then we get to see Doctor Strange obviously use it a little bit during the film, and then right at the end, it's how he saves the day, defeats Caecilius, played by Mads Mikkelsen, and Dormammu, of course. So, which is great. I'll get to that in a couple of minutes. And when Wong's teaching him about the different sanctums that they have set up across the world, and what the purpose of the Sorcerer Supreme is, which is who the Ancient One is. That's her role. So he specifically references the Avengers. He's like, the Avengers protect the world from physical threats, whereas the Sorcerer Supreme and, you know, us as sorcerers, we defend it from the mystical ones, I guess. So yeah, I like that kind of like juxtaposition, sort of like, you know, the tangible is the Avengers, and the not so tangible is the sorcerers. So I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, we get the New York Sanctum introduced, which will become Doctor Strange's base of operations, because the sorcerer that guards that gets killed by Caecilius and his zealots. So he ends up taking that over, and obviously we see that in Thor Ragnarok, and then in the Infinity War trailers it's in there as well. So that's pretty cool to see that set introduced for the first time. And the Cloak of Levitation is also probably my favourite thing in this movie, because I think a lot of the best parts of the humour come from it. The part where he's like crying after the Ancient One dies, and it like starts wiping away his tears. The collar's just like, yeah, I think that's really cool. Really funny. And when he's trying to like go for a certain weapon, and then the Cloak's like, no, this way. Stop. He just tries to stop him from going. Yeah, it's super cool. And I love how Strange gets a handle on it by the end of the film, where he can just take off and fly with it. Or levitate, really. It's awesome. Okay, Stan Lee cameo during the big fight. Well, not the final fight, but the fight, setting up the final fight, I guess. The Caecilius is, you know, they've entered the mirror realm, which is, you know, a world that, you know, they can do whatever they want in there and it won't affect the real world. And Caecilius is like, you know, his powers have grown because he's got Dormammu's dark energy from the dark dimension powering him and his zealots now, so they're controlling it, and it's, yeah, it's making Strange and Mordo kind of lose their fight a bit, and then they end up falling and landing on a bus, and because it's in the mirror world, they can't, mirror dimension, they can't, you know, the outside world doesn't obviously see them, but then Stanley's like, you know, on the bus, they hit the window where he's sitting, and he's like, that's hilarious. He just starts laughing because it's like, you know, obviously it's funny. I think that's it's a funny, cool little cameo for Stan. So I think we're gonna wrap up now, but before we do, Dormammu, I've come to bargain. What a cool way to defeat your villain. Because really, Dormammu is obviously this incredibly powerful being. He's so overpowered and just, you know, he's just, yeah, you know, how the hell were they going to beat him? I mean, Caecilius and his minions are obviously kind of a bit more easier to dispatch with, but I think it was so, I mean, it was convenient that that's what he thought of, but I feel at the same time it was super cool, like, and the fact that it became a gag, like, you know, just keep going over and over again, and the fact that they were like, and Dormammu was like, what's happening? What are you doing? Like, it kind of reminded me of Ronan going, what are you doing to Star-Lord when he's trying to, you know, have the dance off to distract him. It's pretty funny, but yeah, it's super cool in the ways he just keeps dying over and over again. It's like Groundhog Day. Yeah, and the world of the Dark Dimension is so colourful and beautiful to look at. Those scenes are just fantastic. So it was a really cool way to wrap up the story, and then, you know, at the end, Mordo's just like, nah, you've messed with the elements way too much. Bye. I'm off. See ya. Yeah, and then we are left with the mid-credits scene of the film. Is a scene from Thor Ragnarok, and now after having seen Ragnarok about 8 or 9 times, whew, excuse me, I'm gonna take some water quickly. Oh gosh, sorry everyone. Mid-credit scene. So after seeing Ragnarok as many times as I have, which is a lot, the scenes are actually different, which is not surprising because, you know, the scene that was put in Doctor Strange would have literally been filmed like weeks before, not even, before the movie came out. So it's not surprising that they used a different take, or takes in the actual movie Thor Ragnarok. So it's a little bit different. The dialogue is essentially the same, but it's just a different take. But that's super cool. I remember watching Doctor Strange in the cinema and then seeing that had me so excited because I'm like, you know, at that point it was 2016. It had been 3 years since Thor: The Dark World, and as I've said on these videos, Thor's my favourite Avenger. I love him. So I was like, I was just so keen. I'm like, it was a year to go to Ragnarok, and I was just so excited. So it was super cool to see. The gag with the beer is just, it never gets old. It's fantastic. And then the post-credit scene is Mordo has decided he's fed up with people abusing the mystical powers, you know, sorcerers not doing the right thing, taking advantage of what they have, blah, blah, blah. Noble intentions gone wrong. And he goes to visit Pangborn, and he takes away his magic that he's using to make himself walk and live. So essentially he kills him because, like, you know, how long is it going to be before someone comes along to see Pangborn is lying on the ground? Because, you know, there's only so long he can lie there before he'll die. You know, give it a few days. If no one comes to save him, he's dead. And then, so it's pretty brutal for Mordo to just kind of go, do that, and then just be like, too many sorcerers. So that's, you know, setting up the sequel to Doctor Strange. So there you have it. So overall, I love this movie. It is very good. It is not as bad as some people say. Some people say it's a bit, it reflects Iron Man a bit in terms of an origin story. It's not really something we haven't seen before, but it's done in a different way, and it's visually so beautiful and stimulating to look at. So Go check it out, guys. I've been a Kendall Richardson. Thank you so much for watching. Next we are going to talk about Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. Oh, it's going to be a fun one. I'm excited. Okay, I'll see you next time, guys. This has been Non-Scripted Ramblings.